FedNow Service quarterly growth summary for quarter 3 2025. Hey everybody, the FedNow third quarter statistics are in, and here are the top 5 takeaways. That's right, the FedNow Service has continued its remarkable growth trajectory. You know, the hockey stick, it's happening. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, this is signaling accelerating adoption across banks, credit unions, and even some fintechs. As of quarter 3 2025, the FedNow Service has processed over 2.5 million payments, totaling $307 billion, marking record highs in both transaction count and dollar values since it first launched back in 2023. What about some highlights, all right? The quarterly highlights for 2025, quarter 3, 2,506,000 and 2 payments totaling $307.3 billion, averaging $122,616 each, with quarterly growth of 17.6% in volume and 25% in value, double digits all around. Well, can you give me some growth analysis on that? I can. The transaction volume, if we go all the way back to quarter 3 2023, FedNow has grown 449 times. Yeah, 449 times growth. Wow, in transaction count. Quarterly growth, well, it has slowed from triple-digit early adoption rates to a more stable 16 to 60% in 2025, suggesting the transition from pilot expansion to sustained enterprise usage is really there. This is actually a good sign. The transaction value, well, the total value of payments, it continues to skyrocket from $4.8 million in quarter 3 of 2023 to $307 billion in quarter 3 2025. That's a 6,400 time increase, all right? That's big. The average transaction value, it still is increasing, blowing my mind, reaching 122,000 average, suggesting broader use for corporate disbursements, B2B settlements. Oh, and I think I mentioned government payments at some point in time. There's a video on it. That means FEMA, Treasury, U.S. Treasury transactions, they're there. Daily activity, what's happening there? Average daily payments now exceeds 27,000 transactions, totaling $3.34 billion daily. That's up from less than 500 transactions a day at launch. It's growing, and it's growing tremendously. What about some of the key trends we need to be paying attention to? Well, there tends or looks to be a shift towards high-value transactions. The steady climb in average transaction value indicates FedNow is being used not just for person-to-person payments or low-value retail payments, but increasingly for high-value B2B, maybe even instant payroll or even possibly some interbank settlements, maybe even some cash sweeps. Well, let's look at some public sector and institutional adoption. Quarter 2 to quarter 3 of 2025 saw a surge in transaction value growth, plus 405% in quarter 2 to 25% now, aligning with federal agency participation, where, you know, a lot of that came from Treasury getting on board, FEMA instant disbursements. This really marks a strategic pivot towards institutional volume, which validates FedNow's reliability for large-scale public government payments and more. The network maturity phase is what I really think we're in. The growth rates are naturally moderating, which they should, as we see early adopters stabilize operations. And well, we do have new institutions that are getting on board, but they're a little bit more methodical about it. The FedNow network, though, likely is going to be surpassing, I think, 1,700, 1,600, 1,800 institutions by the end of 2025. We already know it's at 1,500. I really think that's going to grow probably even more. What does this mean as far as like, hey, some insights, implications for you? Operational maturity is there. Consistent quarter-over-quarter growth in both the volume count, the value indicates network stability. It indicates technical reliability. It indicates confidence among financial institutions and end users. We know there's some market penetration happening. The jump from 500 million to 300 billion in 18 months showcases accelerated adoption, and it's potentially, or at least currently, outpacing RTP as far as if we put it side by side on the numbers and the growth. And in case you're wondering, I want you to know RTP grew in third quarter too, 115 million transactions worth $405. That was only a 7% growth in the number of transactions, and there actually was a slight dip in the value, but still, it is something significant, something that just proves instant payments are out there and they work. But what is the FedNow outlook? What's it look like? I expect to see continued growth into 2026 because as FedNow expands with treasury and with corporate settlement use cases, we're going to see more and more volume. We're going to see more and more dollars moving. We know the transaction cap is about to rise. Expect $10 million any day now to be a single transaction minimum, okay? Cross-bank B2B automation, we're going to see more ERP integrations, more APIs being involved. That's going to help drive volumes. Customer-facing use cases like bill pay, once you can request for payment working, it's going to be off the charts. Instant payroll, P2P, they're just going to catch up and they're going to cause some more traffic. So my take on this, quarter 3, 2025, well, the FedNow Service has firmly established itself as a cornerstone of the U.S. instant payments landscape. It's there, it's strong, and it's growing. With over 2.5 million transactions settled worth $307 billion and average daily throughput of 3.3 billion, adoption continues to accelerate among both financial institutions and government entities. This data reveals a significant shift towards high-value institutional and B2B transactions, reflecting growing trust and operational maturity within just 2 years of launch. FedNow's evolution from a low-value pilot to a large-scale settlement rail, truly, it underscores its role as the foundation, like I said, the foundation for instant money movement across the United States banking system. My last prediction for now, last thing to update you on, class is dismissed.